Silence after fire. The war between the alien coalition and the enemy empire had finally ended, or so they thought. Across the galaxy, the voices of tired soldiers echoed with relief. Planets lit their skies in celebration. The enemy forces had surrendered. The battle maps were clear, but deep in the outer rim, something stirred. In a small outpost on a dusty moon, Captain Rallen of the Dorian species stared at the message flashing on his screen. Victory confirmed. War over. His second-in-command, a young officer named Myra, smiled. It's over, Captain. We made it. Rallen nodded slowly but didn't smile. No war ends this clean. Something feels unfinished. Myra gave him a confused look. What do you mean? The enemy surrendered, the Council approved the treaty. I know, Rallen said, cutting her off. But Earth didn't sign anything. That name, Earth, still made officers uncomfortable. Even Myra lowered her voice when she spoke it. They said humanity wouldn't respond, she whispered. They were silent the whole war. That's what worries me, Rallen muttered. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, leaders gathered in celebration. Species from every corner of the Alliance, some reptilian, some insectoid, some with glowing skin or strange eyes, shared drinks, speeches, and stories of survival. The war was brutal, but now it was history. They never joined, one elder said, waving his hand like it didn't matter. Earth stayed quiet the entire time. It means they didn't care. Or they didn't need to, another whispered. Few truly understood humans. They were classified as a death-world species, born on a planet with wild storms, hostile predators, and crushing gravity. Their technology was strange. Their silence even stranger. The Council sent them invitations, updates, even requests for help, but Earth never replied, until now, aboard a distant listening station on the edge of known space. Technician Jarrow looked up from his console. Alarms lit the room red. He tapped the screen, frowning. Unidentified signals, multiple, fast, large, he said aloud. His supervisor leaned over. Pirates? No. Too many. Too coordinated. Jarrow's voice grew quiet. They just came out of dark space. Suddenly, the station lights dimmed, massive shadows passed by the observation window, Titan-class ships, black as the void, moving like thunderclouds across stars. Then the message came. Simple, direct, human, this war was not ours. But you made it ours. We are arriving. Panic spread fast, from border patrols to command posts, officials demanded answers. Where are they going? Who are they targeting? No one knew. Some thought it was retaliation. Others feared Earth would destroy both sides for disturbing the balance, but none of them had time to guess, because Earth's fleet didn't slow down. It moved as if it had already chosen its targets. On the ruined battlefield planet of Kera Prime, where soldiers had just begun rebuilding, the sky split open. 1,000 human ships emerged, engines roaring like thunder. The soldiers on the ground froze. The war was supposed to be over, and yet, the real storm had just begun. The Storm Breaks commander Juno stood on the edge of Kera Prime's main base, her boots coated with red dust from the dead planet. She had just finished writing a report to her superior about rebuilding efforts when the sky shattered. A deep rumble rolled across the horizon. Soldiers froze, tools dropped from their hands, eyes tilted upward. From the clouds came giants, black warships, sharp like blades and silent as falling snow began to descend in perfect formation. One after another, they filled the sky, huge, cold, and humming with deadly energy. The human fleet had arrived. Juno grabbed her visor and activated her command link. Identify those ships. Her operator stammered. Unknown registry. No. Coalition signature. But are based on structure and energy output. I think they are Terran. Juno felt her stomach drop. Humanity, she whispered. Now? The war is over. The comms crackled again, this time from orbit. A calm, human voice spoke. This is the Earth Strategic Response Fleet. Stand down. We are not here to negotiate. Juno's face turned pale. This can't be happening. They waited until now. In the sky above, the Terran dreadnought known only as Stormbreaker took position. 1,000 smaller fighters spread like wings across the sky. Inside the ship, Admiral Kane watched the planet below through the main viewport. His face was calm, eyes sharp. Sir, an officer reported, no resistance detected. The ground forces are confused. Kane nodded. Expected. They think they've won peace. He turned to the room. But peace without justice is not peace. The enemy surrendered to the Council. Not to us. They never faced consequence for what they did at Vega Station. Or Titan's Fall. Another officer asked, do we engage? Not yet, Kane said. First, they need to see us. Back on Kara Prime, panic had begun. Troop leaders shouted orders. Mechs were powered up. Civilians were told to evacuate. No one knew why the humans were here, but they knew what humans were capable of. Commander Juno tried to make contact. This is Commander Juno of the Coalition Restoration Force. Please respond. We have no hostile intentions. Silence. Then the Stormbreaker responded with a video feed. It showed footage from the war. Not coalition victories. Not celebrations, but massacres. Bombed out human colonies. Civilians burning under enemy fire. Earth settlements wiped out while the galaxy looked away. Then, Kane's voice, you all said the war was over. But Earth was never part of that peace. And now, we've come to settle our side. Myra, Ryland's officer back at the border outpost, saw the same broadcast. Her hands shook. They were watching the whole time. They saw everything. Ryland didn't speak. He just watched the message, jaw tight. This isn't revenge, he said finally. It's correction. On Kara Prime, the sky lit up with blue trails. Human drop pods tore through the atmosphere like meteors. Hundreds of armored soldiers landed. Across key locations, they didn't attack, they took over. Every command center was surrounded in seconds. Defense towers shut down. Communications cut. Drones scrambled the airwaves. Juno watched helplessly as human soldiers marched into her base, tall, expressionless, armed with weapons no coalition scientist could explain. One of them stepped forward and handed her a sealed message. She opened it. It said, Earth claims jurisdiction. Stand down or be removed. Juno looked up, eyes wide. She had no orders for this. No protocol, because no one expected Earth to respond like this. The war had ended for the galaxy, but for humanity it had only just begun. Earth doesn't ask. Commander Juno stood in silence, the message trembling in her hand. All around her, human soldiers moved with precision. They didn't speak unless necessary. Their armor was thick, black, and smooth, no markings, no names. Just cold efficiency, her second officer whispered, are we prisoners? Juno looked at the sealed message again. No, she said quietly. We are not prisoners. We are witnesses. In orbit, the Stormbreaker transmitted another message. To the Coalition Command Center. It wasn't a request. All occupied war zones are now under Earth's control. Withdraw your forces. Do not interfere. The Council tried to argue. They sent long diplomatic responses, filled with legal codes, treaties, and polite threats. Earth ignored every one. Across the galaxy, the same scene unfolded again and again. On the planet Gorax, human warships appeared above the city where peace talks were taking place. They didn't fire. Instead, they shut down the power grid, jammed communications, and surrounded the building. Human Marines walked in and calmly removed the enemy commanders. No shots fired. No violence needed. Their presence alone was enough. On Station 11, Coalition scientists were studying old enemy weapons. Then Earth's ship arrived. The humans walked into the labs, disconnected every device, and took the blueprints. We'll return it when it's safe. They said. No one argued, not because of fear, because everyone finally understood something important. Earth doesn't ask. In a council meeting on the capital world, panic was starting to show. They are taking over everything, one member shouted. We said the war was over. Another banged his fist. And Earth said it wasn't over for them. A third leaned forward. We left them out. We ignored their silence. Now they speak with power. What do they want? Someone finally asked. No one had the answer. Back on Kara Prime, Commander Juno followed a human officer as he led her through the now secured base. You don't need to fear us, the human said calmly. We are not here to conquer. Just to finish what was started. Juno frowned. The war ended. You're too late. The human turned to face her. His voice was colder now. You ended it. Not us. We watched the galaxy burn. We watched colonies destroyed. We saw children die. Earth waited for justice. He paused, then added, now we are making sure justice happens. In one of the base's dark rooms, Earth soldiers opened a hidden storage vault. Inside were stolen human weapons, armor pieces, and recovered data cores from destroyed Terran ships. Juno didn't even know this room existed. The human officer glanced at her. You didn't know. Or you looked away. Juno's silence was the answer. The officer didn't raise his voice. He didn't make threats. He just said, this is why we came. On Earth, people watched the broadcasts quietly. Families saw their soldiers landing on planets far from home. They saw flags planted not to claim land, but to mark justice. Some wept. Others saluted. No one cheered, because for humans, this wasn't a victory. It was closure. In a dark corner of space, the last leaders of the enemy empire were hiding in secret point. One of their spies rushed into the room. They are coming, he said, pale with fear. Earth found us. Impossible, the general shouted. No one knows we are here. The spy's voice broke. They do. They are already in orbit. Outside the window, shadows began to form in the stars. The war was declared over, but Earth hadn't signed the treaty, and Earth never forgets. Ghosts of the past. The hidden outpost of the enemy empire was buried under layers of rock, shielded by cloaking fields and protected by stealth technology no other race could break. No other race, except humans. In orbit, Earth's recon cruiser, Iron Veil, hovered like a silent predator. It didn't send warnings. It didn't broadcast threats. It simply existed above the enemy like a knife waiting to fall. Inside the enemy base, the generals argued, they found us. They won't dare act without the council. One general snapped, it doesn't matter anymore. The council can't stop them. No one can. Then the lights flickered, the enemy soldiers froze. They heard something outside, heavy footsteps. One of them whispered, that's not possible. The atmosphere here is toxic to most species. Another voice replied quietly, except to Deathwelders. Back on Kara Prime, Commander Juno stood in front of the human commander again. His name was Colonel Blake. No ranks were shown on his armor, but his presence was enough to command fear and respect. You've taken control of 12 sectors, Juno said. You've replaced all coalition patrols. What's your final goal? Blake looked at her without blinking. To finish what you started, and walked away from. Juno crossed her arms. We didn't start anything. Blake stepped closer. His voice was low. You let them massacre our colonies. We sent reports. We begged for help. You said it wasn't your war. You let them escape justice. He handed her a datapad. It showed a planet. Burned forests. Dead civilians. Children buried under rubble. The image zoomed in, a child clutching a small flag with Earth's symbol. Juno looked away. Blake didn't raise his voice. We are not here for revenge. We are here to make sure it never happens again. In the council chamber, the panic was turning into desperation. We must speak to Earth, a voice cried. We must negotiate. A communication request was sent. Earth declined. The message was short. There is nothing to discuss. Justice is already in motion. Some council members demanded Earth be stopped. Form a blockade. Call the fleets. But no one moved, because even the council knew the truth now. No fleet could stand against Earth's might. In the burnt city of Nova Aleph, human marines marched past empty buildings. They weren't here to raise flags, they were searching for survivors and something else. Captain Dara moved through the ruins with her unit. They found an old bunker, half buried, sealed shut. Inside were files, enemy records of attacks on human worlds. Precise, cold planning. Civilian targets listed by population density. Evidence of cruelty no one had believed. The files were transmitted directly to Earth's High Command. At the enemy outpost, the main door finally exploded open. Human soldiers in heavy armor stormed inside, silent and unstoppable. The enemy opened fire. It didn't matter. The Terran soldiers advanced like shadows, clearing the rooms one by one. The last enemy general raised his hands. "We surrender." Colonel Marek of Earth stepped forward. His face was like stone. "You didn't surrender when you slaughtered our people." He tossed down a device that projected one final image, a burned Terran colony with the words, "Consider this a warning," carved into the wall. The general dropped to his knees. "We didn't expect your kind to survive." Marek leaned close. "That's your first mistake. And your last." News spread fast. The last stronghold of the enemy empire had fallen, not by council order, not by treaty, but by Earth's hand. Silence. The galaxy watched, because the storm wasn't over. It had just passed the eye, and Earth was not finished yet. The peace they feared on the edge of the galaxy. Earth's fleet regrouped, warships lined up in perfect silence. No celebration, no cheering. Just silence. Cold, powerful silence. Inside the command ship Stormbreaker, Admiral Kane stood in front of a star map. Red markers blinked across the system, former enemy strongholds, corrupted coalition bases, black sites that had been hidden for years. Each one had been cleared, each one had fallen without warning, but Kane didn't smile. This wasn't about revenge. This was about balance. "Have the files been delivered?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied his officer. "Every council species has received proof of what was done to Earth's colonies. The videos, the names, even the silence." Kane nodded. "Then let them decide what peace really means." Across the galaxy, the council planets were shaken. The transmissions Earth sent were not censored, not cleaned. Raw footage of burned villages, erased cities, and unmarked graves played on every screen. On Thelion, a planet of thinkers and peacekeepers, people cried. On Varus, a military world that once dismissed humans as primitive predators, their generals stood in shame. On Juno's home planet, citizens protested against their own leaders. One sign stood out among the crowd: "We called it peace, but Earth lived the war." Back on Kara Prime, Commander Juno was called to speak with Colonel Blake again. He was waiting in the command tent, Earth's banner behind him, but no weapons drawn. Juno sat across from him. She looked tired, but something had changed in her eyes. "You've made your point," she said. Blake shook his head slowly. "It's not about making a point. It's about finishing something that never should have been left undone." She leaned forward. "What happens now?" He slid a small device toward her. It contained the names of every leader, commander, and official who signed the treaty that ignored Earth's suffering. "This is our list," he said. "We are not hunting them. We are watching them." Juno frowned. "You're not going to attack?" "No," he replied. "If they try again, we'll be ready. But if they live quietly, then so will we." She stared at him. "Why come with such force, then?" Blake's voice was steady. "Because the galaxy only understands one language: power. And Earth has finally spoken it." In the halls of the Galactic Council, silence had returned. No more shouting. No more arguing, just fear and respect. One of the elder members stood up during the next session. For decades, he had mocked humans, called them unpredictable, dangerous, uncivilized. Now he trembled as he addressed the chamber. "We pushed them out. We told them the war was over. But Earth never said it was. And now we understand why." Another counselor added, "This wasn't just retaliation. It was a reminder that peace without truth is just silence." They voted that day to rewrite the peace treaty, and this time, Earth's name was at the top. On a quiet hill overlooking the ruins of Nova Aleph, a human soldier stood alone. She held a small picture of her family. They had lived here before the war. Before the council ignored the distress call. Now, Earth had returned, but no one could bring back what was lost. Her commander walked up behind her. "It's done." She nodded slowly. "Almost." Then she planted a small flag into the ground. It wasn't a flag of conquest. It was a grave marker. The galaxy didn't speak for a while, because the peace they had built had cracks, and Earth had shown them all. But this new peace, this one came with eyes watching and ships ready, the kind of peace the galaxy would never take for granted again. Earth watchers now from orbit above a dozen worlds. Earth's fleet didn't move. They remained like silent giants in the sky, calm but unshakable. No one dared to challenge them anymore. Coalition commanders stopped trying to communicate. They had learned their place, but Earth wasn't here to rule. They were here to remember. On Kara Prime, Commander Juno walked beside Colonel Blake. The base was quiet now, the repairs complete. Coalition soldiers worked next to human Marines, slowly learning that Earth's strength wasn't just in weapons, but in discipline, in control. Your people don't celebrate, Juno said. Blake shook his head. We don't celebrate war. Especially not this one. But you won. Blake stopped walking. We didn't come to win. We came to make sure the lies stop. He pointed at the horizon, where ships still hovered in the upper atmosphere. We trusted the galaxy once. It cost us entire cities. We won't forget. We won't let it happen again. Juno stayed quiet. She had seen the reports. She had read the names. And she had seen the look in Blake's eyes, not hate, but resolve. On Earth, the people didn't cheer either. They rebuilt, they honored the dead, they sent engineers to ruined colonies, medics to broken worlds, and messages of truth to planets that had once called them monsters. The truth was simple now. Earth had survived betrayal and risen stronger. In the former enemy empire, what was left of the leadership came forward. On live broadcast, they surrendered not to the council, but to Earth. An old leader stepped up to the screen, his voice weak. We asked for mercy. Earth's reply came not from a warship, but from Admiral Kane himself. You had your chance to surrender when the war was alive. Now we offer terms. The terms were strict, but not cruel. All weapons were dismantled. All facilities destroyed. The scientists behind the attacks on Earth were handed over. Earth didn't erase them, Earth held them accountable. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to shift. On the planet Arali, young students no longer learned of Earth as a wild and unpredictable race. They studied the truth, their strength, their loss, their silence during the war, and their thunder after it. On the planet Virak, a monument was built, a single Terran bootprint cast in metal. Below it, the words read, "They warned us with silence. We answered with fire. They answered with thunder." At the council chamber, a new seat was added. It was made of dark metal. Sharp. Strong. No one sat in it, because Earth didn't send a representative, they sent a message. You speak. We listen. But if the silence returns, we land. That was enough. Back on Kara Prime, Commander Juno stood at the landing pad as the last of Earth's ships began their slow ascent into the sky. Colonel Blake approached her one final time. I thought you would stay, Juno said. He shook his head. We are not here to occupy. We are here to remind. She looked down. We deserved it. All of it. Blake didn't respond. Instead, he handed her a small data pad. This is everything. Every colony we lost. Every call for help ignored. Every name. She took it in both hands. It felt heavy, not in weight, but in truth. What do I do with this? She asked. Blake stepped back and nodded toward the sky. Don't let them be forgotten. Then he turned and walked away. Above, Earth's fleet vanished into the clouds, but every world below knew what that silence meant now. It meant Earth was watching. It meant this peace would last, because the last ones who broke it got thunder. Asterisk. The thunder that stays. Weeks passed, then months. The galaxy adjusted slowly. The war that was supposed to be over before Earth arrived had now truly ended, with silence, yes, but a different kind. This time, it was the silence of respect, not ignorance. On planets across many systems, flags flew at half-height, not for grief, but to honor the forgotten. The ones Earth had carried in silence for years. Commander Juno returned to her home planet. She wore no badge now. No rank. She stood before the council, not as a soldier, but as a witness. She placed the datapad Colonel Blake had given her on the main podium. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This, Juno began, is a list of names. People who lived, called for help, and were ignored. People from Earth's colonies, civilians, children. We signed peace before they were even heard. She raised her voice. Earth didn't come for war. They came to end the silence we created. She looked every council member in the eye. We call ourselves a united galaxy. But if we want peace, we must never let truth be left out of the discussion again. There was no applause, but there was no protest either, just quiet heads nodding. Far beyond the stars, deep in Earth's military archive halls, Admiral Kane walked past rows of stone and steel. These weren't weapons, they were names. Every colony lost. Every fallen soldier. Every forgotten civilian, not digital files, etched monuments. He stopped at one. Lena, age 8, died in fire on Vega colony. Nobody came. He closed his eyes, just for a second. Then turned and walked away. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about never forgetting. On a young colony world rebuilding from the war, Earth sent builders. No soldiers. Just engineers and doctors. One of them was a tall man named Eric. He helped rebuild schools, not bunkers. A young alien girl approached him one evening, holding a small piece of scrap metal. She looked up. Are you one of the Thunder soldiers? Eric smiled gently. No. I build things. She nodded. But people say Earth came like thunder. He knelt beside her. We did. Because no one heard us when we whispered. The girl looked confused. Will you go away now? He thought for a moment, then answered with a soft smile, we'll go back to the quiet. But if the silence ever becomes dangerous again, the thunder will return. Back on Earth, a simple message played on the public broadcast. The galaxy thought the war was over. But peace built on silence is a lie. Earth remembers. Earth rebuilds. Earth is watching. People didn't cheer, they stood in quiet streets, hand over heart, watching as Earth's flag flew not above the galaxy, but beside it, not as rulers, not as saviors, but as survivors, stronger, wiser, and no longer silent. In a small museum on a neutral world, an alien child stood in front of a large display. It showed Earth's fleet landing during the final days of the war. Ships like black thunderheads in the sky. Beside her stood her father. Why did they come so late? She asked. He answered, they didn't come late. They came when they were needed most. The girl read the plaque aloud. They said the war was won, then Earth's fleet landed like thunder. She smiled. I want to visit Earth someday. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. Just remember, when Earth is silent, it's because they are listening. And when Earth speaks, everyone listens. Asterisk.